Welcome to another episode of the Apex Perspective podcast. Today, I get the absolute pleasure to sit down with Dr. Madan, who is currently the founder at Eizen. Previously, he was the head of AI research at Rakuten in India. He was also the principal scientist at SX Lake Group. But I'd like to hear more about Dr. Madan's experience from his perspective. Dr. Madan, can you tell me more about your background and how it led you to founding Eizen?
Yeah. Hey, Aryan. Nice to meet you. Um, Prior to this company, what I'm right now building is Eizen AI. Prior to this, I was working as the AI head for Rakuten. It's a Japanese e-commerce firm where we were actually handling multiple verticals. One vertical is customer sciences. It's a pure e-commerce e-commerce company, and also we are focusing on the computer vision aspect of problems that comes in the form of images, processing the videos and everything. Out of that, I have actually started one more vertical that is more related to the cancer research, how we can use this AI to solve the cancer research problem. This was my profile prior to starting this company called Eizen.
Sure.
Eizen
Excellent.
is Eizen is majorly focusing on the computer vision aspect of it. So there are you just considered like a human. Okay, when you actually see something is happening, you observe the activities happening in front of your eyes, and you can say that, hey, this person is running, this person is picking up. Okay, that is one aspect of it. Second is that you always instruct someone to do an activity. Hey, can you go and pick it up? Can you really go and give it to me? Can you pass on that to me? you know that is a kind of an interactive instructions that you give it to the people. In the same way, you can give the instructions to the system. And would you ask me that, hey, am I looking good? How is my t-shirt today?
Mhm.
Am I doing good? Hey, look into my eyes. So this is something like an interaction is one thing. So one is that camera is watching, another is you're interacting with the camera. So that camera acts as an agent and he tells that, hey, what are you doing is not correct, can you fix that one? So there
Right.
are two aspects we are actually building in this Aizen. One is that one is observing what is happening, another is real-time interaction to get the instructions passed.
Very interesting. Very interesting. So, out of this specific AI that you're developing, what I'm curious about is what are the use cases? What are the most prominent use cases of this particular AI?
The best use cases, if I can start, when we started this company, we were working in the manufacturing plant, and it's a one-way observation. If I'm looking at any picture, okay, I can actually see many objects, elements in that picture, but
Mhm.
my attention is very limited. When we go to the manufacturing, when you are doing an assembly, there are 1,000 parts sitting on the table. A human may not be able to focus on every element.
Right.
So
Right.
here the computer vision aspect comes and tells that, hey, that black chip is not sitting properly, this right bolt is not turning properly. That is
Mhm.
something like, from the quality aspects it is doing, number one. Number two, I am a novice person in the assembly, I don't know where to start. If an agent comes and tells that, hey, can you pick up this one on the right hand, can you put it on the table? No, no, no,
Mhm.
no, no, that's not the right place, can you put it here? So that is the second aspect of it. So these are the two aspects that we have been working with multiple manufacturing companies for
Mhm.
the process of assembly, and from the training point of view for the people who what to hold, what to not to hold.
Excellent.
Now we are slowly moving from observing the operators to robots.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Okay, so what's happening now? Earlier robots, industrial robots, were like so deterministic.
Mhm.
So since the 1990s, robots were designed, you just put a paint on it, you just move, you do all these aspects. But nowadays robots are becoming more
Skilled.
probabilistic,
Yes.
deterministic, probabilistic. They are becoming more generalized. They are sitting next to me, next to my couch, they are working in my kitchen. The environment is completely different for them. So now the way I'm observing the person, hey, pick it up and everything, now I'm going to tell that, hey, robot, you are not holding that coffee cup properly.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Right.
an angle. Can you hold it straight? Can you keep it on the table? No, 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 don't keep it. It is edge of the table.
Right.
So we are actually helping by observing the real-time scenarios. We are helping the both human operators as well as
Mm-hmm.
robots to do tasks properly in the environment. Aryan.
Very, very, very interesting. So right now, as of right now, when it comes to Eisen, another use case that sounds very, very compelling is if it utilizes a camera in a computer or any system to be able to understand the environment, it can also replace a lot of testing centers in universities. If you're aware of this process, a lot of universities require students to take certain online proctored exams in which there's another person watching through the camera. This is
Yes,
another area where it can absolutely automate basically this process. And if you're not aware, there's a phenomenon of cheating when it comes to these
right.
online exams. So how can it's a lot more difficult for a normal person to detect signs of cheating when they're observing from the other side of the camera than I'm assuming for this camera, because as you said, one of the distinguishing factors of what Eisen can do is being able to detect certain things that are in this camera view that are far more difficult for one person to specifically detect. So
Yeah,
with that particular perspective in mind, just to transition to what the capabilities are, what would you say are the current limitations of ISIN? I only ask this because there are certain industries like healthcare that are a bit more nuanced into it, situations.
absolutely. Those problems are called like long tail problems, you
Mm-hmm.
know, especially when you talk about this example of cheating and everything. Okay, we require the computer vision systems to observe the activities more precisely. Okay, for example, when I'm actually trying to do cheating, my particular eyes can move like this and observe like this. It's not like head movement like a macro level, it's a
Mm-hmm.
very micro level. You have to really identify those signatures,
Mm-hmm.
which a human can do. A human
Mm-hmm.
can observe, hey, this person is not paying attention. I think he's looking at something else. That level intuition, we are not there yet with the AI systems.
Mm-hmm.
However, however, we are interpreting. We are actually doing a project with one of the companies where we are trying to do the build. We are building an AI therapist.
Mm-hmm.
The AI therapist observes the minor girls' movements when they're answering the questions being asked by the therapist. For example,
Mm-hmm.
hey, can you tell me why are you down today? Then if I ask this question, for example, the moment the girl can looks it back like this, that means she has been thinking about the past. When she's looking at like this, when she was answering, that means she's thinking about the future.
Mm-hmm.
So the therapist had defined a few gestures of the human
Mm-hmm.
to get the indication. It's not necessarily that person should talk and express. If AI can understand these movements, for example, we have been talking, and as we are talking, you can actually observe some gestures from my side as I
Mm-hmm.
move my head and everything. That gives you some kind of communication about how this particular answer is it positive, negative, is actually going into the details. You know, that level of observation, gesture based observation, is accomplished to a level. However,
Mm-hmm.
the intrinsic properties is very difficult. For example, if I'm dull like this, kind of, you can assume so many things. You know that he's sad, but why he's sad, that I don't know.
Right. So you can essentially define what certain actions look are interpreted as and understand the definitions of what that is, be able to
Absolutely
basically put that into the system of AI and they can detect that at the micro level essentially. Very
right.
interesting. So as of right now, what would you say are the so what are the long term interests of this company?
Yeah, the long-term interest of the company here, the way we are looking at it, is that working with the physical world in terms of the way the human expects and predicts. So, for example, you see me running with a cup of coffee, then you would easily predict, hey, coffee would spill over. Madan, can you go? Can you go slowly, or can you walk? You
Yeah.
know, hey, you're running fast, you may fall down.
Hmm.
So you are going to hit hard to that wall. Stop there. These are all kind of predictions that you have, like your mom is looking at you just stepping down the stairs fast. Hey son, can you go slowly?
Right.
Because that's the intuition with the physical world. Hitting hard based on the physical properties of the world is not there yet. That's the direction people are building the world models. You should actually see that how hard you are hitting. I'm holding this particular one with what force I'm applying here, how much force you are applying here. You can't
Hmm.
estimate from
Hmm.
there, but you can say that you are holding hard, you're holding loose.
Yeah.
This level of understanding is what we are trying to accomplish in Eisen by understanding the physical world. Because take an example in the manufacturing, when you are holding a chips packet, a robot is holding it, it has to hold it as gently. It
Exactly.
should not crush it. It should not crush it, applying a lot of pressure. You
Hmm.
know, I should be able to tell that, hey, you're holding it too tight. Can you make it light? That level of intuition, if at all I want to teach the AI, AI should understand the physics like the baby is learning since born.
Absolutely. So it should be able to essentially automate certain roles, in fact, in certain manufacturing companies, in certain situations, like also daycare. At some point, it should be able to automate those specific tasks. Would you say that?
Absolutely. Automate the certain tasks. Absolutely. For example, for one of the clients where we have been working, there they wanted to observe the robot is doing its job morning to evening with what accuracy it is doing.
Hmm.
Because now robotics is moving from capex to opex. And now even I can buy the robot. Okay, if you give me an opportunity like, hey Madan, you can pay per month like $300 or $100, yes, I'm ready. But you ask me, hey Madan, can you go and buy this one, which is something like some $48, $1,000 or $50,000? I may
Hmm.
think of it, oh, what do I do, where do I get that money? So now the easy adoption all these robotics companies are taking is they are actually giving moving to the opex.
Hmm.
Just like coffee machines, you pay as you go, how many cups of coffee you're taking, right?
Right.
How many times you are actually doing. So where we are observing the robots, they are not 100% accurate.
Right.
They in the labs they design so well, but when it comes to the manufacturing company, the pick and place, they can keep any item, the environment is different, you don't get, and some person goes and interacts with that, so many different things coming up, right?
Right. Right.
So in those scenarios it can fail.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
what we are trying to observe here is that we are actually observing that it is failing. It is failing because somebody entered, somebody kept another object on top of that.
Hmm.
It is not working because the box that is designed for it to do, it's a different size.
Right.
It is failing because the object or the code box is in different configuration, it cannot know how to pick it up. So
So
we are,
nuanced situations.
yeah, yes, different situations, and these situations are not well designed every year.
Hmm. Right.
Now, now companies are actually building models on different scenarios, but there are infinite situations.
Absolutely. And this is solving that particular problem of being accustomed to nuanced situations is going to dramatically change the capability of AI and its use cases because now you're also effectively working with an actual employee that
Yeah.
is not only capable of physical tasks, but is also capable of training staff and doing it in a proper way. This is a long-term way that we're also going to be heading towards. We're also seeing Tesla adopt AI cabs as well. This is essentially where we're heading into the direction. We were
Mm.
discussing before this podcast started about
Mhm.
the impact on jobs specifically, and you had a very interesting perspective. Rather
Mhm.
than the idea that AI will take jobs and replace jobs, you have the perspective that it'll actually create jobs. So tell me more about that perspective.
Absolutely. The first fear everyone is having, am I safe? Am I losing this job? You know, but one interesting aspect that we have found as we have been working on different AI tools, those are there here, it is creating more opportunities to get things done much more easier than earlier. And hence, the horizon of the problem statements that I was not taking earlier, but now with the AI, I'm able to accomplish it more, which means the opportunities those are actually going into more defined depth, and which the current workforce is not sufficient. It's only the transformation.
Hmm.
So the transformation of people who were not having skill sets how to operate a robot earlier, now
Hmm.
if you build that skill of operating a robot, I think this is a new skill. So it's a transformation that is going to happen. It's not like there are no jobs, it's creating more jobs, provided that we have to get into that.
For new skill sets, essentially, because this is going to be a massive industry, and there are certain delicate operations like healthcare that require humans to oversee certain things. So if there are certain healthcare facilities that adopt potentially in the future, maybe 5, 10 years from now, a set of AI robots, there needs to be people there to look for these nuanced situations, because
Yes,
not only nuanced situations in healthcare, but also how the patient feels.
correct,
There are very different circumstances that still actually require human intuition and can create jobs in that regard. While
correct.
certain things can be automated, there will also be preferences of
Mm.
even certain industries of having people in the room, having people in this particular area to be able to put some input towards a task that's being
Correct,
done, even though
correct.
it's done by AI. So I think that's an actually a very it's a very important perspective that I think people don't focus on as much. And the
Mhm.
people who choose to work with AI, understand AI, and really understand how it's going to impact their industry are essentially ones who are not only going to survive, but they're going to be able to thrive, is what I would say.
Correct.
So that was a very, very good perspective you provided today. I think the work you're doing with Eisen is absolutely fundamentally necessary. We are
Mhm.
heading towards this direction. But I think as we develop with the nuanced situations, we're going to be able to see a far more reach of being able to utilize this at scale, essentially. So I'm
Correct.
looking forward to seeing that happen. So
Mhm.
what I'd like to do now is to go ahead and shift this conversation to a little bit more about you, Dr. Madan. And the
Okay.
first question I have for you is what is something about you or your life that you wish more people knew about?
Yeah. Actually, I have been from the professional side. I would actually talk about. I had been into this robotics for almost like over 20 years,
Wow.
and I'm passionate about robots, and also had worked on multiple defense projects at Maryland College Park Robotics Center prior to this, and working for Nav Air projects, where Code 35 projects, some of them like military based projects, robots we have built. So it was in 2008, 2009 times. That those times we were just discussing about unmanned cars. Uh, that was the time. So I'm passionate about robotics and especially unmanned ground vehicles, and also built algorithms how autonomously they can take decisions. So more of I'm passionate. People know me as like a passionate about robotics. One that is, and when it comes to personal, yeah, I believe in like meditation. I do a lot of meditation courses. I actually try to help the people. Uh, just wanted to help them in doing meditation as well. So that is
Hmm.
what people actually gets them to relieve from stress and gives them focus on what they are doing. In
Hmm.
simple words, I would put it like, yeah, it helps you to define the purpose in your life.
Hmm.
That.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
What is the biggest difference between you when you were between the age of 20 and 30 to now?
Between in me, yes, there is no big difference if you ask me. In
Okay.
2030s, the same passion I was having to build something, and today also we are having the same passion. However, the way technology is actually progressing in 2030s, when that time the first GPU card I got from Nvidia, I wanted to really build my algorithms on top of it. I and my friend, we actually uh, took our pocket money to buy a first GPU card to test it, how it's working. That time it was called a Tesla card. Nvidia launched this card, Tesla card, in 2009, if I recall that.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yes, that time. And we were coding everything in C++, how to make utilization of GPU. But today, people are using GPU like anything. They don't have to get into the GPU card, but we used to get into the GPU card, and that is something like a big difference. I can see the technology is progressing, but
Mhm.
still we have the same passion and ambition to solve something interesting in this computer vision space. Arya.
Love that. So what I'll do now is go ahead and share a very quick perspective regarding fitness and health, and we'll go ahead and conclude the podcast with your plans for this year, whether that's professionally or going to be personally. So the perspective I want to share today is really about how can you make fitness and health time efficient specifically. Why do I want to bring this specific perspective up? As you know, Dr. Madan, a lot of my viewers are entrepreneurs and executives, so
Mhm,
not all of them have the same time as many other people who are trying to make a health or physical transformation. So the idea is, can you really understand what actually drives a successful physical transformation and make that time efficient? So what a lot of people believe is that you have to go to a gym many times a week. You have to go to a studio many times a week. That
mhm,
includes commuting to the place, coming back to your house, taking a shower, doing these different things. And that makes it inaccessible to many people. It's a large time investment. So
mhm,
how can you make that time efficient? Really, what you have to focus on is two things.
mhm,
One is you have to have the right amount of movement, and and then number two is you have to have the right amount of calories. Out of these two, what it takes the real time is the movement. So instead of focusing on doing movement inside of a gym or in a studio that requires you to take time to go there and come back to,
mhm,
focus on location independent movement. What do I mean by this? Some
mhm,
movement that you can do anytime and anywhere as opposed to one fixed location. For example, utilizing step count, because step count is something you can do while you're listening to this podcast. It's something you can do while you're taking a phone call or taking a business call. It's something you can do while you're traveling, if you travel a lot as well. And it's something you can rely on essentially in every scenario.
mhm,
So this is actually the reason why I think step count's going to be superior to most other approaches, because you can do this essentially wherever you are, and as long as there's a ground underneath you can do this. So instead of making time for health and fitness, you can have this approach be adaptable to your specific schedule. That's the idea behind this. And
Sure.
step counts actually what I use to lose over 70 pounds and actually keep it off.
Mhm,
So hopefully that provided a perspective that was useful to the viewers. What we'll do now is go ahead and shift this conversation back to Dr. Madan and go over his plans for this year, whether that's professionally or personally.
yes. Um, the biggest plan and the goal that we have here is, right now we want to expand our computer vision platform to almost like a target is like a 25 big enterprises, is something like we are actually planning. We have already stepped into some of the largest companies like ABB Robotics, something, and we have deployed our algorithms in Belgium, in Zara manufacturing plant, where the robots are actually
Mhm.
picked up and everything. So we wanted to expand our business that. And second one is professionally, in terms of the algorithms, we wanted to capture the world models, like what is the physics involved in that. That is the second one. When it comes to the personal point of view, yes, I my dream is to just go to some good place and do meditation for continuous 14 days. It's
Wow.
I generally follow this vipassana. It's a meditation technique where you would not talk to the people for continuous 10 14 days. You just be doing your own meditation, so that Like you mentioned, some people prefer to walk and talk. That's physically you are actually giving some good exercise, as well as you have to give mentally also the good exercise to your thinking, so that you will be stay focused on what you are doing. And also you would also just actually accept the facts as it is, which is a good quality that you would learn, and that can help you to come out of the stress. Definitely entrepreneurs are entrepreneurs are having a lot of stress, why, what, and everything. So how do you manage that stress? And this is one of the techniques that I would follow. I,
Excellent. Well, where do people learn more about you, Dr. Madan, and more about what you're doing?
yeah. So your
Is
question
LinkedIn a
is,
good place? Is LinkedIn a good place to learn more more
Um,
about
Link-
you?
LinkedIn, LinkedIn blogs are the best place for me about.
Okay.
Okay. And earlier to LinkedIn, I was maintaining my own space where I was talking about AI and everything. But now LinkedIn is the best place so that you can easily connect with the people. So people can come down to LinkedIn and connect. And
Excellent.
yeah, and most of the
Well, thank
time
you.
I'll be both in India and as well as here in Bay Area, so we can catch up for a coffee if anyone is interested to meet. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It was a pleasure to have you on. This was Aryan Mohindra and Dr. Madan